Hey there, guys and gals. It's Daniel here from the GeekSpeakNation channel, and I'm here to bring you something new, something exciting. Yes, it is a podcast, and this is the weekly Geekly podcast. Working on the pronunciation and working on the title. Let us know what you all think. But with me, if you hear laughter, that is, of course, my amazing co-host, Mr. Will Strickland. Say hi to the folks.
What is going on, GeekSpeakNation? I am very happy to be here on the weekly Geekly podcast. Weekly Geekly.
Yeah, the title's so nice you just want to say it as slow as possible. But yeah, so with this new podcast, guys, what we're trying to do is give you all the news that comes out of the world of geekdom, which is a lot, from movies to comics to just working with video games, and there's so many topics and just how it affects us overall, and we just want to give our thoughts on what's been going on throughout the news cycles.
And the idea is that basically it's things that really speak to us, something that we think we can have a good conversation about, and ideally something that you guys can talk about in the comments too, and we can respond there and have a good conversation, just continue the discussion like that.
So the way of the format is how we're going to do things is that we're going to go topic by topic. Will mostly dealing with the video gaming genre with his topics, and me dealing with comic books and movies. And so we're just going to trade off topics, and then after that we're going to do the "What have you been up to" segment, where we figure out what each person's been playing, what we've been reading, what's really been captivating us lately. And then we're going to go into our final segment, which is going to be the collectibles.
Hey.
Dun, dun, dun. Where we're going to talk about a collectible that we find very, very interesting, and we want to tell you guys about, because we think it's worth your time. So we're going to get
worth the money. Worth the money.
Well, it's worth the money. I just see like Robert De Niro's face.
Right.
It's worth the money. Anywho, so we're going to get right into it, guys, and we're getting into our first topic, which is Justice League. So, as of, I believe, if not last week or 2 weeks ago, the entire production for Justice League, which was going on in London, had a open set visit for the press to come in, write down what they saw, and give reviews. Now, the interesting thing about this is that usually what people saw as set visits does not come out until about 3 or 4 weeks before a film comes out. They released this literally 3 days after they went. And it's really interesting because they're doing this to curb the backlash that came after Batman v Superman. And they're doing this to try to show that they're doing a change in tone. And it's weird. It's really weird to me because I'm totally up for their intended vision and trying to build this universe, but I don't want them to get too lost in trying to please everybody. I don't know. Because it's just like, after watching what's been going on with these films and just fandom in general when it comes to like Marvel and DC movies, you really do see that it's okay for people to be protective of characters, but if we aren't taking risks with the genre and trying to differentiate things, it's not really, going to give us any variation.
You can only tell, Superman's origin story a set amount of times until it's boring.
Yeah, and it's just like, I want to see something different. And like the review is up now, guys, for the Ultimate Edition of Batman v Superman, which is the director's cut of the film.
Is that R-rated?
Yeah, that's the R-rated cut with 30 extra minutes.
Right.
And it's such a better film to me. And to see the director's original vision is just so captivating. Because, it's dark and it's brooding or whatever. But I think it has a lot to say on society and how we view godlike figures and our heroes. And it's really interesting. I don't know. That's just me. That's just me personally.
What do you think with... I think Deadpool really did, with it being an R-rated superhero film that made however much money that it made. And clearly there's now a market for these R-rated superhero movies, which I think there always has been, but now in terms of business there is. Do you think they're going to start doing the R-rated Spider-Man and then the PG Spider-Man? Like,
no.
They're going to release parent releases so then the kids can see this one and then the grown-ups can see this one? Like, how are you going to appeal to both markets and keep them both entertained?
I definitely see what you're saying there. I think you're not going to see that. Like we need to make everything rated R. Because usually, even when you look at when Avatar came out, everyone was like, yo, 3D everything.
Yeah.
But I don't think.
remember that.
Yeah,
That was
but I don't
terrible.
think it's gonna be. I don't think it's gonna be the trend with rated R superhero movies, because the reason Deadpool worked is because they were faithful to the character.
Right.
And that's what people were attracted to.
And these characters have never necessarily been R-rated characters, except for Deadpool.
It's just like, hey, this is just how he is. We're just telling a faithful adaptation, which means, yeah, it's going to be crazy. There's going to be breaking fourth walls. That doesn't mean Wolverine should go in the next movie and be like, hey, bub, and just look directly down the barrel of the camera. But
Right.
I think it definitely sets a precedent for filmmakers and studio heads to look at the properties they own and just be like, okay,
What can we do with this?
yeah, what can we do with this? And if it's going to be rated R, it's rated R. So I just hope it.
Now,
just,
I
opens
did
people's
hear
eyes.
that, speaking of Wolverine, that the new Wolverine movie is going to be R-rated.
It is.
Which, for all superheroes, it makes sense, just with Wolverine's power of having these blades.
Blades
It
on his
seems
hand.
like there's no way to do it without being really gory.
Yeah, because that was.
You can't really tranquilize someone with blades out of your face.
It's so funny watching like the animated series from the '90s, because it's like, and Wolverine just goes up. He's like, "You gotta trash you," and he's trying to go up and like whack people. It just like punches them eventually, and I'm just like, "What do you have claws for?"
I mean, that was like when Batman Arkham Knight came out, because Batman doesn't kill anyone, but then he has this tank and he's blowing up cars.
They're like, "What you got? You got
he's
rubber bullets."
He's tranquilizing people. He's immobilizing them.
At least in Batman v Superman, they had the guts to say, "Oh yeah, no, Batman's killing people in this." I'm like, at least you're honest with it. But yeah, so I think Justice League is going to be good, but I just hope that with people seeing the full version of what Zack Snyder really wanted to make, and how the studio just botched the movie and just cut it up into different pieces, I think that people are really going to have more faith in Zack Snyder as a director, and that Justice League's going to be pretty different and be pretty cool. So that's what I feel about it. That's where I stand. Will?
All right, well, yeah. My first story of the day, right now the Steam sale's going on, and usually when the Steam sale starts, all hell breaks loose in terms of everything. There's usually a lot of controversy with companies raising the prices of the game right before the sale, so then they can take 25% off, and it's the regular price of the game, so like kind of hyperinflating it, which is arguably illegal, but we won't get into that right now.
Right.
But what really tickled my fancy that came out yesterday, this company, indie developer named Trek Industries, they released a game called The Orion Project, and it's on Steam, and it was taken down by Activision for copyright infringement. And the claim was that it was from Call of Duty Black Ops 3 and Advanced Warfare, that they had copied assets from those games. So Trek Industries sends out on all their social medias, they're on Reddit, everything. They're kind of asking for the help of the community because, as it looks, it's top dog Activision picking on the little guy, just this indie team trying to put together a game. So everyone's on their side. Of course, they always start petitions. There's a petition against Activision.
There's a petition for everything.
Right. And Trek Industries,
green.
they put out all these hashtags in a Steam group and all this stuff. And then I don't understand why companies think they get away with things on the internet nowadays. Because people on Reddit really started looking at this and said, maybe this is a justified takedown. And you'll see the pictures after we talk about this, but there's the company put out comparison photos of the guns, which were the assets in question. So they put out this picture of the shotgun in Black Ops 3 and the shotgun in Orion, and they look nothing alike, and like it actually looks like a Borderlands gun in Orion, and then same thing with another gun. So that's what people were first seeing and thinking, wow, this is not justified at all. But then other people not with the company started putting out pictures, and it's the same guns with different skins. It's the same geometry, same polygons, same construction of these assets. And they've even gone to the point where, to kind of help their cause, the company was basically like pulling pieces of multiple guns to make one gun. So you can't say, Well, this AR-15 in Black Ops 3 is the same as the Orion AR-15.
Right.
Well, no, it's not identical, but
You
did take
from it. Yeah.
the barrel of a Black Ops 3 gun and the chassis of a Advanced Warfare gun and made your AR-15. So that's what this really high-res picture that really shows them piecing it all together shows, that these are just pieces of the gun put together, and it's copyright infringement. It's black and white copyright infringement. So in reality, Activision was entirely justified in taking this game down.
Yeah. I agree.
And it even came out that Trek Industries, they've had some other controversies in the past, including they released a game called Orion Dino Beatdown. And it was terrible. Did not review great. So they re-released it as Orion Dino Horde, and they changed barely anything. And ideally that got better reviews because kind of placebo effect. Oh, the sequel's going to be improved over the first one. So this company has not always had ethical business practices.
Yeah, because when you're telling the story, I was like, this doesn't sound like a first-time offender.
Right. And the fact that they were so quick to, like, on their own get the bandwagon behind them.
Right.
Because that's usually how it goes when an indie developer has a legitimate complaint with copyright, which happens fairly often. I mean, it helps to have the community behind you because that's the only way to get attention from news, to have people requesting it. So they got Reddit all behind them, and Facebook and Twitter and Steam, and then ultimately it's all BS. It's all BS.
I feel like after every controversy, there's always a subreddit ready to tell you the truth. But
honestly, yeah.
It really is. No, but
I mean, I just don't get it. Like, every week in whatever industry, there's some company making a claim, and then the internet proves it's wrong. They're fake.
Right.
Like, they're making it up. I just don't get it. Why do they think we'll be the ones to get away with it?
So, I'm not a PC gamer, but tell me, is like Steam literally like the Wild Wild West when it comes to like the games that get uploaded to it and like getting up on the market?
It's not where I can make a game and it's god awful, and I know it's god awful, and I can just throw it up there. There is an approval process.
Right.
Now, there are still garbage games that make it there, but that's not because Steam or Valve, who runs Steam, wants you to play garbage games. It's because this game, it runs, and there's nothing illegal, and it meets our guidelines. Sure. There's a new green light program where kind of like I forget what the term was that was really big. Do you know the game DayZ?
Yes.
How that game was in what was it, like pre-purchase or something, where you could basically buy into it, you get a copy of the game, and it's still in development, and you get to like kind of test out all the add-ons.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Which,
no, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the idea is that's awesome. You pay for the price when it's cheap, which is kind of what they did with Minecraft. I mean, I bought Minecraft when it was $9 in alpha, and I've had the game for 4 or 5 years with however much price changes and content increases. But Steam Greenlight is kind of the same thing, where you can vote which game you want added onto Steam. Whichever one does get added on, it can then enter into that process. And Xbox started doing that with Xbox Game Preview. They showed We Happy Few at E3, which is going through the game preview process, where you buy it and you play it, or Xbox may make it a free demo or part of your subscription. But it's not done. They're adding content to it, and the final release date will be a year or two out in the future.
Man, I wish PlayStation had that going on. I think that's an interesting way to go about things, because there's so many games that Tuesday rolls around, games just get dumped on PSN, and I'm just like, what is this? They're like, do you want
it's
Toad
definitely a good business method in theory, but I mean, DayZ still is not officially released.
Yeah,
it's not done. There is a game, what was it? The War Z or something.
H1Z1? That one?
H1Z1.
Yeah,
H1Z1. That was out on Steam. That was really popular. and that was again the pre-purchase. I can't remember the actual term, pre-purchase. And before it was released, they divided up into 2 games, and you buy those games now. So it's like, at what point are you going to release this game?
Right.
At what point is it going to be done and bug free and ready for release? Because when it's in this mode, you can say, "Oh, that's a bug. My bad. We'll work on it. It's not the final build."
Yeah.
At what point are you going to stop using that excuse? Right?
Yeah, because then you kind of get into like, well, maybe you should have like a deadline for when things to start cutting off, and you need to like, okay, now you need to start putting out the actual content for the game that's going to be purchased.
Right.
So yeah.
It's I mean, that's basically everything that came out with that story, with Czech Industries and the Orion project. It was not Activision, evil Activision, picking on a small indie developer. It was an indie developer stealing assets, and Activision, taking care of their assets. So that's what came out of it.
The more you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's usually like Activision screws over their buyers again.
Right.
But no, I think that's definitely a good thing on them. So, moving into our next topic, we have Rogue One, a Star Wars story. And I'm not saying it is a Star Wars story. Nope, that's actually the title. Rogue One, a Star Wars story is set to hit theaters this December. And guys, I am really excited.
That's the title?
Yeah.
That's the
Rogue
title?
One, a Star Wars story.
Come on now.
They were so afraid that people would look at the poster with the Death Star and be like, "Is this a Star Wars movie?"
So they need to confirm it's a Star Wars movie.
I mean, you could have just been, why didn't I just do like Star Wars Rogue One? I'm just like, well, that works. But
does that mean all of these like side movies that they're making, they're all going to be a Star Wars film or Star Wars story?
I certainly hope not. Because it's going to be, every other year is going to be an anthology film, and then the years in between is going to be an episode that continues the story forward. So I hope we're not going to get like Boba Fett, a Star Wars story.
Right.
It's a little weird. But what I want to talk about with this film, even though there is a lot going on, specifically with the production, and 40% of reshoots being rumored, like 40% of the film is being reshot, quote unquote, by some rumor mills. But Disney, of course, stepped in front of the bullet, and they said, no, there's nothing of the sort going on. Oh, perish the thought. But now they're saying, they confirmed in an Entertainment Weekly magazine that Darth Vader, Lord Vader himself, is going to be in the film. Now, what I found interesting about this is that this type of Entertainment Weekly magazine, you wouldn't get this type of coverage until 2 months, I'd say, or a month or so before the film would release, or this much extensive coverage. I mean, it gave character names and all these things and a lot of descriptive details about the characters and some of the plot. But yeah, the reveal of Darth Vader I thought was a pretty big thing, and I thought it'd be something they'd save for whenever they drop the next trailer. Because you imagine just us reacting, and then it's just like, we're like, oh my God, it's Darth Vader! And everyone just lose their minds. But they're really trying to just get in front of like the big house fire that's going on. And they have a sign like, look, we have Darth Vader. Like, oh, that is nice. And like, ignore the house fire that's going on in the back. But one thing I want people to keep in mind when they hear stories like this, like reshoots and going on, is that reshoots are ordinary. Reshoots are a part of the budget. And it's just like, I don't think it's necessarily something to be worried about. Because a lot of people will just want to freak out about everything when it comes to it. But it's nothing really to worry about, I think.
Yeah.
And they're just doing crowd control.
Which Star Wars needs a lot of.
Yes.
Because those fans are ever so rabid.
Yeah, I really learned that. Because it was just like, I'd never gotten to like deep into the canon and deep into the lore and extended universe until The Force Awakens came out. And I was like, oh, this fan base runs deep.
Well, I'll be honest with you. The Force Awakens was my first Star Wars movie.
That I was about to say really, but then I was like, that's not surprising because literally
I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah, because it's like I was really surprised. I was like, guys, like all over in college, I was like, guys, we're gonna go see Force Awakens, right? And they're like, oh, well, I've never seen a Star Wars movie. I'm like, what?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, if you guys didn't know, Daniel and I, we've known each other since like what, elementary school?
Yeah, like fifth grade or
So
something
yeah,
like that.
we've probably had this conversation before where I've never seen a Star Wars movie until The Force Awakens. And the great thing is my birthday is May 4th. So on my birthday, instead of just happy birthday, Will, I get May the 4th be with you, Will. And I just want a happy birthday. Don't say anything. Don't say anything. Just say have a good one. Like, just
have a good one, mate. Watch a movie or two.
No.
You might have a good time.
Don't worry about my birthday. It's not a big deal.
I
liked Force Awakens. It was an awesome movie. Yeah. I can't wait for the next one.
Surprisingly, I've only watched it once.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I know you're into like rewatching
that's
movies you really love.
Yeah, and that's what was weird to me. I was like, I've only seen this movie, and that's when I went to go see it in theaters.
Well, BB-8 was adorable.
Yeah, it really is. With the thumbs up lighter. So great.
I want more BB-8.
We want
BB-8, a Star Wars story.
From the time he was in a factory. The story you never knew. But yeah, I think it'd be really interesting. So yeah, that's
the next story. The next story I got here, I believe it was about a week ago now. The United Kingdom had a referendum vote, and they voted to leave the European Union. The movement was called Brexit. Britain exit. Little play on words there. And Downey, I'm into politics. I'm not going to get into the political side of this right now. I'm just going to get into the video game side of this right now, because there is a lot to talk about on the political side. But there's also something to talk about on the video game side, which, of course, isn't necessarily something you go into the voting booth and you say, well, how's this going to affect my video games? But it's still something to consider, because this is really just about business in general. So if I understand the European Union correctly, the freedom of movement and freedom of work aspect of it is you can be a citizen of Britain. You can migrate without any problems. You can live in Germany
without a visa, without any
you can
real
work
paperwork.
in Germany. Absolutely no problem. You don't need any extra paperwork. I mean, if I remember correctly, like even if like my high school teacher, she technically lives in South Carolina, and now she works in North Carolina. So there's like she has to pay double tax almost. So there's like extra stuff that goes into it, and it's just like a 10-mile difference. But when it comes to video games, Game Informer has a good article, and it's a update on an article they previously posted. It's just talking with European developers, specifically developers in the UK. And to summarize it real briefly, they get tax breaks and tax credit for making video games, because it's an entertainment, it's a media. So same with like how movies get tax breaks,
right?
Video games get the same thing too. So these developers are kind of now worried about financing these games and how they're gonna pay their employees and pay for everything else that goes into these games. And then also when it comes to the freedom of work, when they have their artists that live in France, how easy is it gonna be for them to communicate and work with them without
like
having
their
to do
London
any
extra thinking
tax.
of like Ubisoft and how they have divisions all across Europe, and how that's going to affect them, and they have the London based
are they going to now have to do extra tax work? Are they going to have to fill out extra paperwork to enter UK, to go to a team meeting or something like that?
Right.
So again, this isn't something that you necessarily decide your vote on, although thinking about the business, because business does form your economy, that is something to consider if you were in the UK voting on this. But for people, just you and me in America who just play these games and don't even necessarily even hear about the developer over in Europe, we just play the game that they make. It is something that we'll have to just see how it plays out. Hopefully some of these smaller developers, they don't have to let go of people or anything, and they can do whatever games they have set forth to do.
Right.
So I mean, yeah, that's really all I had to say about it. Again, it's not anything too surprising. It's not anything like, well, if they had known this before the vote, it would have changed everything. But it is just something about general business that would be affected with the leave from the EU.
It's really interesting, because the worst part that I feel developers get when it comes to making a video game is that people don't know what they're going through.
Right.
It's that the publishers are just like, hey, we're going to release a statement saying you're this far along, you're trying to hit this release date. They don't need to hear, well, you know, Tim's really been struggling in the office to help get the transportation to get over here, so it's been a little hard in the editing department.
Right.
Like, no one's ever talking about that. And I think the only time we're hearing about developers now is either when they're announcing a game or when they're closing down shop or when they're like Sega and they're falling downhill at a rapid pace, even though Sega's been falling downhill for decades now. But I think... But I honestly think that it's concerning to me, and I think we need more things like dev diaries, and we need more things to know what's going on with developers. So if there are people who are like Patreons or Kickstarters or whatever, or people who are just like, yeah, I really want to help fund this game, or I want to be aware of what's going on with our developers, that we can keep up with it. Because, I mean, it's already hard enough to make a game, let alone if you're doing it, especially in Europe, and you have assets all over. So, yeah, I think it definitely is really interesting.
And we'll, this is a really good article. We'll definitely put this in the about section of this video. But Game Informer, they really do break it down, like, just numerical reasons of, or impacts that the UK will have because of this. And some of them, the favorable tax environment I was talking about, it's called the Video Games Tax Relief and R&D Tax Relief. That's what gives them the tax incentive to make their games and the tax breaks to help finance it. And then also something that, I mean, this is just a whole can of worms right here, but intellectual property. When you're in the European Union, so all copyright laws are the same and everything's under the same umbrella. Now you're the United Kingdom. You're not the European Union. Are your intellectual properties gonna be subject to change? Do you even have control of the same IPs?
Right.
If you know, half of the owners are in the EU and half of them aren't. So I mean, copyright and intellectual property, that has always been very, very tricky, and it's something that, I mean, American government, the European government, they really do need to sit down and figure it out. Granted, it's not like, do we need to go to war and how do we give people food, but it's something that really does affect business.
And Brexit, that's not immediately taking effect. It's still going to take time.
The lawyers of the EU and the leaders of the other EU nations have said this needs to be done as quickly as possible. But no, it's not going to be tomorrow they're out. I mean, it may be a year or two, honestly, before they're out of the EU, because that's a big, big decision to leave the European Union.
That just sounds stressful. I don't want to be in that room.
But I mean, definitely with just copyright, I mean, I think in the 70s, the FCC made like a copyright act with all these new legislations. But that was in the 70s, and it's not the 70s, and technology has changed entirely.
Right.
So there really does need to be an overhaul of just reviewing the laws and figuring out what stays and what goes.
Yeah, just to focus on just, keeping up with things and making sure.
Well, you need to make sure that you're not only giving people, I mean, like Activision, giving them the power to take care of their assets, but also encourage people to attempt to make their own without worrying if theirs legitimately slightly resembles another IP, then they get a lawsuit, right? So if like the Orion project, if they had legitimately, like, just their guns were only somewhat similar and not copies, and Activision took them down, yeah, that's wrong, and unfortunately Activision probably would have won in that case because they are so powerful. So that would have been a situation of the big guy taking advantage of their power. But again, in that situation, it really was copyright infringement. But if it wasn't copyright infringement and it just looked similar, that guy's screwed. Then Trek Industries is screwed. So that's where copyright really does need to be looked over and reviewed entirely. So we'll definitely put this link in the description because I think it's worth a read. It breaks it down, and it has quotes from developers directly. So yeah, that's just how Brexit is going to affect video games, at least that we can see. There could be future consequences or benefits that we don't know about yet, but for now, this is what they're predicting will happen.
Okay. Thank you, Will. That sounds really stressful. But you know what's not stressful? Being
Tell
on the
me.
set of Spider-Man Homecoming. Yay!
That's what I'm talking about.
Because with Spider-Man Homecoming, it seems like literally everyone is on this set.
Okay, it's
Got a
Childish
nice-
Gambino.
We got the cast list right here. Tom Holland, of course, is Spider-Man, but we also have Robert Downey Jr., Michael Keaton, Zendaya, Salinas... I can do this.
There we go.
Salinas Leyva. I don't know what it is, but if I say
Slave
something...
Leia? Did you say Slave
No,
Leia?
Salinas Leyva.
In this movie, Slave
Leyva.
Leia.
Making an appearance in CGI format. Directly ripped out of Return of the Jedi. But yeah, her from Orange is the New Black. She is fabulous. Logan Marshall Green as, I believe, a villain. Hannibal Buress is more than likely comic relief. I highly doubt he's going to play the intellectual, philosophical leader of the group. And we have Abraham Atta, which is very important to me. He was in this Netflix film called Beasts of No Nation, where he plays as a child soldier, and gave one of the best performances I have ever seen in film in the last decade.
Wow.
But he's more than likely just going to be like, a friend in this a friend in this movie, nothing more. But yeah, so the cast is literally amazing for this film, and it's so diverse, and
That's a hell of a budget.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, some of these aren't the most expensive actors in the world, except Robert Downey Jr.,
Right.
who is like literally the most expensive actor in the world.
And
But
I would imagine Donald Glover is getting there, too.
that's
Because
true.
he's in the new FX series,
Atlanta,
Atlanta.
yeah.
And he's already a big name on his own.
Mm-hmm.
So I would imagine his, asking price is going up.
True. Speaking of Donald Glover, this is off on a tangent, but it's totally worth it. His new concert, he's going on tour again, and his tickets sold out in 6 minutes.
See, that's a whole nother podcast. These ticket buying bots and scalpers.
I can't stand
like,
that. I mean, I understand that a lot of it's like, oh, these are radio people, we have to get tickets to do giveaways and things like that.
But that's like 5% of the people buying these damn tickets.
I know. I want to
Justify
freaking see
it all you
Childish
want,
Gambino,
Daniel.
man.
Justify it all you want.
It's not fair. Anywho,
Go ahead.
this topic isn't about my sadness that I can't go see Childish Gambino perform, but the happiness, rather, that I'm going to see Donald Glover be performing as an actor in this film. And what makes me really excited about this movie is that it's so diverse. And like when you look at this cast, it's so great, and it feels like they're really trying to create an authentic Queens environment. I think when you saw Spider-Man in Civil War, he had the accent and everything, and his apartment looked exactly how it should, and they're really going for just opening you up to all these different experiences and all these different actors and actresses. And I just think this movie is such a great step in the right direction from what I'm seeing, in trying to tell a story about a community and about a cast of characters in an environment that is just realistic and fun at the same time. And I'm just really excited for this film, and I'm just loving all their casting choices. Like, this is probably the most diverse superhero film I've seen in a while, casting-wise.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because, and unlike most of the Marvel movies, I think this is the one where we have more than just like 3 minorities. It's pretty crazy. It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, that's what I think about it. I don't know what you thought. If that tickles your fancy. What do you think of the Spider-Man movies?
Again, I think the only one I've seen was Spider-Man 1, the first of that trilogy
Really?
in the 2000s, I think. Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, I liked that. I saw it as a kid. I really liked it. I thought it was cool. But in terms of like legitimate film criticism,
Like looking at it, like, all right, what is this?
I have no opinion. Yeah, like looking at it from like my age now, like, is this a good movie or a bad movie, or is it just cool? I don't know.
Well,
I
I'll tell
couldn't
you
tell you.
right now.
Uh-oh.
The first one, Spider-Man 1, it still holds up to me. It holds a place in my heart, because Spider-Man 1, to me, it's the first superhero movie I can really remember.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that movie. It's cheesy as all hell, but it is still really fun. Spider-Man 2 is great. And then the rest of every single Spider-Man movie ever made after that, you can probably skip.
Well, isn't Spider-Man 3, isn't he emo?
Yep. We don't talk about that. Well,
I'm sorry.
We don't talk about. We don't bring up the past.
I didn't mean to bring
And then
up
they had
a
the
sensitive
amazing
issue.
Spider-Man movies, which were less than that. They're like, you mean the mediocre, kind of emotional Spider-Man? Yeah, that's
Right.
the one. It's my favorite.
No, I mean, I will. I mean, we have close to no information about it, but the Insomniac Spider-Man PS4 exclusive that got announced at E3, I'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. I've never been like a huge superhero guy, just because when I grew up, I was more into like monster trucks and cars and stuff like that. Right. So, you got some kids that are into superheroes, some kids that are into cars, kind of like that. And I was definitely the cars and monster trucks and just planes and stuff like that. My roommate Elijah this year, he watched every superhero Netflix and Hulu show, so I got to at least listen to some superhero knowledge in the background. So I mean, yeah, I'll definitely keep an eye on the game. The movie, yeah, I can keep an eye on that because, like you said, the cast is insane.
Phenomenal.
That movie.
Michael
Yeah.
Keaton. That's all I needed. That's all I needed. But yeah, so yeah, that movie's gonna be interesting, and we'll see what that has to offer. Will, with the final topic of the week.
All right, my final topic is referring to Battlefield 1, which is a really dumb name, just to start off with. I know
don't
it's
know
set
why.
in World War One, but what happens when you want to make another one?
Mm-hmm.
You make Battlefield 2? Because you've already made Battlefield 2.
1.5.
You've already made Battlefield 1, too.
Battlefield 1 Part 2.
Right. That's like Nintendo naming everything the new. What happens when you make a new?
The latest.
You have the new 3DS. Okay. What about the new 3DS?
I would call it the Nexus. Nintendo Nexus.
I've always thought if I was making a product about video games, something that like my grandparents do not understand, I need to make it marketable to where if my grandma walked into a store and said I need this, the clerk and her would be on the same page. If a grandma walked in and said I need the new Nintendo 3DS. Oh, dude.
Do you want the one that's like $40 and the one that's like $90?
Oh, there's one that's 80? Yeah, I'll absolutely take that. Grandma, what is this?
It's literally a brick with a pen in it. It's not even
That's
a
what I
gaming
played, but-
console.
That's a whole new topic. That's not
Yeah.
relevant to what I'm talking about. Anyways, if you didn't know, Battlefield 1 is set in World War 1, which is really cool that they're kind of going away from the current trend of the modern / pseudo-futuristic stuff. And they're taking it back to World War 1, which you can argue is kind of the precursor to warfare as we know it. Because World War 2 really set, like, this is how warfare is fought. And World War 1 kind of laid the groundwork for that.
Right.
If that's a good or bad thing. It's a fact. That's how
Yeah,
it is.
unfortunately.
Right. So World War 1, as we know, was just a war of alliances, really. It was this country declared war on this country, and because this country was allied with this country, that country declared
pulled
war on
into
that
that,
country,
yeah.
all this stuff. Eventually, America got pulled in, not necessarily because of any direct attack. I mean, you had the Zimmerman telegram in Mexico, and you had the Lusitania getting sunk, but there was never a Pearl Harbor of World War 1. So America did get involved, but didn't have nearly as large of a role as the European countries. With that said, France is DLC. France is DLC
And they
in
were
Battlefield 1.
on the ground. They were in the trenches.
Here's
the entire
if you Google when did France enter World War 1, you get a little graph. So June 28th is when Franz Ferdinand was assassinated by I can't remember the dude's name. It was with the Black Hand Society, I'm pretty sure, which reminds me of the Dark Brotherhood from Skyrim.
That's really intense. Like, I
Yeah.
can't imagine being
Yeah.
really a part of a secret society.
Yeah.
Because I'd feel like, well, guys, we should start a Facebook group. This is really
Right.
intense.
So that was June 28th, 1914. And the assassinator was from Serbia. Franz Ferdinand was from Austria. So on the same day, Austria declares war on Serbia. August 1st, Germany declares war on Russia. August 3rd, Germany declares war on France. And on the same day, France declares war on Germany. So within a week of Franz Ferdinand's assassination, France is in the war. And they're in the war until it ends. So they were basically there from the very start. So let's just say this. Let's say we're making a game about the Revolutionary War, all right, which was the fight for American independence, which had the British versus the American, but the French and the natives were also involved. So let's say we had a game about the Revolutionary War with the British, the natives, and the French, and America was DLC. That's the same thing.
Yeah.
And I mean, DICE kind of has a legitimate reason. They say for Battlefield 1, and they've been really emphasizing the single player experience in this. Battlefield 1, DICE seeks to focus on the little known stories of the Great War to take players where they do not expect. He added that, of course, the studio does not ignore the importance of the French army in the war, and players will meet them in the game's campaign. To truly honor the French army in multiplayer, and, once again, to show a side that we're not used to seeing, we have decided to dedicate an entire premium
Premium
add-on to them with a special treatment after the launch of the game. So take that with a grain of salt, ladies and gentlemen.
The grainiest of all salts, yes.
That's if DICE's track record keeps up, or just modern first-person shooters keeps up. That's going to be 1 or 2 hours of single player and a new map or two, and maybe a new gun.
So here's my problem with that. It's funny because DICE was saying that they want their multiplayer to not be authentic to World War I. That's why you have so many automatic weapons and things like that. Like, they said they wanted to create a more fun and engaging multiplayer experience, but to do that, they're willing to give away the suspension of, oh, we're in the trenches of World War I.
Well, I mean, so that's the thing. With the Revolutionary War, Civil War, War of 1812, blah, 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 everything until World War II, if you're doing it realistically, really does not cater to video games. World War I was fought in the trenches. And a game, a 10-hour campaign of you maybe being literally in a trench the entire time, that does not sound fun to anyone.
It doesn't, but it's like, how are you going to say that, oh, we're going to give France the treatment they deserve in our less realistic interpretation of these events in multiplayer? That's where I'm just kind of like, well, that shouldn't be what's coming first.
I think what they're focusing on is just making sure that the history is authentic. The gameplay may be modernized, which it should be, honestly.
Yes.
Realistic World War I game would not be fun. But if the history and the story is authentic, that's what I'm most interested in with a game in World War I. And if they're doing that with the French, I mean, either way, they're screwing over history right here, not making France an integral part of the base game. Because not everyone gets the DLC. There's going to be people that play this game, just the vanilla version, and never know that the French are involved. Honestly.
But who is the campaign focusing on then?
The campaign, for what it seems, it's kind of bouncing around from nations. So, so the game's multiplayer, which assumedly means that the campaign involves the same people, has the British, the Germans, the Austro-Hungarians, the Italians, the Ottomans, and the Americans.
Hoorah!
Right. Which, again, America played a very important part for a very short time. So it's worth having the Americans in there, but not at the cost of someone that was there at the beginning.
No,
that's what I don't get.
Someone commented that they're following the Harlem Hellfighters, and that they were going to be a big part of the campaign. And
that would be awesome.
That's what someone said because I did a reaction to Battlefield 1 gameplay, and someone said that DICE is going to be doing part of their campaign. I didn't know if it was campaign or DLC, but it's going to be focused on the Harlem Hellfighters and their experience as the all-black
And
troop.
According to these quotes from who are they quoting here? Julian Wera. He works for DICE. They don't say his position or anything. But from this dude's quote, they're focusing on stories that really haven't been told. And that would be awesome if they really did focus on, like you said, the Harlem Hellfighters.
Because that would be an example of something that.
Or any other of these like kind of small factions. Because you always hear stories about World War II of like this village of 20 people held out 300 Nazis to keep their independence.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's awesome. But you don't hear stuff about that about World War I.
Right.
You don't hear much about World War I at all. Like, even when you learn about it in high school, I mean, you learn the important parts. And I don't think that it's wrong that you learn about World War II more, because you can still see in your life today the impacts of World War II, not necessarily World War I. And that's because World War II changed the results of World War I and kind of the legalities that came out of that and that alliances and all that. So I do appreciate that DICE is, at least they're saying, they're kind of telling stories that have been forgotten to history about World War I. I really don't see how they can make up for not including France in the base game and the campaign. That's a really, really almost insulting decision. I mean,
because it's just like they're part of it the whole entire
time. The example
time.
I gave of not including America in the Revolutionary War, like, that would be, I don't want to play this game. The Revolutionary War was about America getting independence from Britain.
Right.
And you're not going to include America?
Yeah.
That's insulting. That's ignoring history. I love history, and you got to do it right. You always got to be sensitive to it. And you got to make sure you're doing it authentically. And they're not. They're just not.
I feel you.
So that's, I would love to see how they handle France with this premium metal.
Premium.
But I just don't.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They did that.
I want to play the game. It looks awesome. The gameplay looks cool.
Because I played Battlefield 4 for the first time this week.
This would be my first Battlefield. I think I played Bad Company 2 for about an hour or two.
Yeah.
This would really be my first all-in
Yeah, because last week they had E3 sales going on, and I was like, you know what? Screw it.
Yeah.
I'm going to get Battlefield. It was literally $4.79. I was like, I would literally be cheating myself out if I didn't get a multiplayer with a whole bunch of free DLC right now.
You'd be cheating yourself out if you didn't involve France in a game about World War I.
But yeah, the game is really fun. Battlefield 4 is, I got Hardline. That was garbage. Immediately traded it in. But but I really think that, Battlefield really has a good formula, and they really know how to make an intense multiplayer experience.
The Battlefield gameplay model is distinct. Mm-hmm. It's very different from Call of Duty, which has kind of set the standard.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that DICE is in an interesting position, and I've been saying this a lot lately. But DICE is in an interesting position that a Mafia 3 is in, and that Watch Dogs 2 is in, with being able to tell stories and tell perspectives that normally we would never see. In the case of Mafia 3, playing as not only just a black protagonist, which we get ever rarely every year, but also being able to tell a story about what's going on with, drugs, crime, mafias, lifestyle, and things like that, black mafia. But being able to have that translate with war itself, and talking about a war that's usually not talked about, but is considered the Great War when it happened, and it devastated so many lives and had such a big impact on history itself. I think it's important that they really do justice to those who were involved and to the events that transpired.
Now, I agree with you. I think, personally, I would not hold Battlefield 1 to the same expectations as Mafia 3 in terms of taking advantage of talking about sensitive issues, because it is still Battlefield. And
it's just, I feel the same way about Watch Dogs 2. I don't expect Watch Dogs 2 to break the barrier between, like, oh my God, they really went in on Black Lives Matter with that protagonist. No, I don't expect them to go that far. But when you talk about your protagonist having a background that involves gentrification and police brutality, well, yeah, I expect you to talk about it and just be authentic towards it. So, yeah, authenticity, kids.
Put France in the World War I game.
Let's get that hashtag going.
Hashtag put France in games involving World War I. You got 60 characters left.
Nothing else. No other thing.
So there's all of our topics So now we're gonna move into the personal side of our lives, trying to give you some human qualities. It's kind of like when you're voting for someone. Who's the most human?
I feel like Careless Whispers should be playing right now. It's time to get personal. But yes.
So Daniel.
Yes, that is
What
me.
have you been playing recently? What have you been interested
Man,
in technology, entertainment, media, sports,
all
anything.
over. Like, it's been pretty disgusting, like, how much I've been consuming media. Like, like I binge through TV. Like, I think I am going to be a professional binger because I got through Orange is the New Black season 4 in about 3 days. And I did, what else did I do? Mr. Robot. I did all the first season in 2 days.
I saw a trailer for that. That looks pretty interesting.
Show is really good. Really good. 9 episodes in the first season. Really good. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I've just been binging TV shows like crazy. Video game wise, I've just been going back and just playing some games that I didn't really get to play. Like, I'm about to hit up Gone Home today. I'm about to hit up that.
Oh, nice.
Never got to play Gone Home, but it was free game of the month. So, for PlayStation. So I'm like, I can live with that. And then main thing is just movies and comic books really for me. Going out to see just weird independent films. I went to see this movie called Neon Demon. The review should be up already.
I saw a trailer for that too.
Yeah, it is.
I didn't know what to think of it.
So the director of that film, he's a Swedish director, and he is crazy. And essentially, like, the idea that he has in all of his movies is that sex and violence are the same thing, and that they are synonymous, and that they're exchangeable because they're the heightened, like, ultimate expressions of passion that a person has, violence and sex. And so he takes that concept very far, like farther than Tarantino at certain points far. Like, it's insanely violent, but I love his work, and it like opens up my mind to like different ideas. So I've been going back and watching his movies, which has been really great. Drive, Only God Forgives, some really awesome stuff, man. You got to watch those Swedish foreign films, man.
Definitely.
Really gets you going. And then finally, just Rebirth. DC comic books, they were like, you know what? We've been bad, guys. We've been bad to you. Because lately their stories for like the last 5 years have been really dark and really dour. And so essentially they're like, we need to bring back hope and love into the DC universe and bring back what people fell in love with since 1945 and 1944 when they started doing these comic books. And yeah, it's just about them bringing back hope and like excitement to these characters, and it's really, really fun reading these new books. So I've been loving these comic books, and it's a great time for new comic book readers to hop on. Guys, read comic books. Support comic books. It's where all your movies come from. So, Will, what have you been up to /reading/playing?
I just thought of this. Right now we're video chatting. You guys are just hearing the audio podcast and some pictures about what we're talking about. But you have a Batman poster up right there, and that just reminded me of the news story that broke yesterday that Batman Return to Arkham, which is the port of Arkham Asylum and Arkham City, has been delayed indefinitely.
Oh, don't even get me started on that.
Probably because Rocksteady, with how poorly Arkham Knight was ported to PC, or basically how it wasn't, how it wasn't ported, they're probably like, we cannot get this wrong at all. We need to get this perfect.
Warner Brothers loves making so does Ubisoft, but they love to make the mistake of announcing games way too early. Like, I understand that, you know, as a publisher, you should be excited. You know, your studio's out there making a great game and all those things and making your fans happy. But wait to pull the trigger, because I honestly think that, like, people announcing games too early is really killing games. Like, No Man's Sky, as excited I am for that, I think that game is going to underperform and be critically not that well received as it would have been because it's been constantly delayed. Now, unless it's pulling an Uncharted 4 and we're going to get one of, like, a crazy gaming experience that's going to be like, oh my God, I can't believe this. Like, they really have to deliver. But, I mean, in the case of Uncharted 4, these are the same dudes who made The Last of Us. So their pedigree is high. They're batting 1,000. But these delays, man, they're very frustrating. And with Rocksteady, I am tired of them giving out ports. Because as much as I love the Arkham games,
other developers.
Yeah, whenever they give it out to other developers, it is always disastrous. Like whenever they did it on DS, they did Arkham Origins on DS, and it wasn't Rocksteady. And then they also did the Arkham port, and then now this with the studio who's rendering it. That you have to give them more time. It's just, if you're gonna give out your IP, man, or well, I mean it's a license, but still, if you're gonna give it out, man, help out, because these people. I tell you.
So I didn't mean to trigger you right there. I just
no, it's fine. You brought back my flashbacks, and I was like,
I'm sorry, dude.
Arkham Knight delayed. Arkham Knight delayed.
But anyways, in terms of what I've been interested into, I really haven't been able to play video games since I got back from school. So it's been about probably 6 weeks now.
I'm sorry.
And the most I've gotten to do, I finally got to start Shadows of the Damned, which is a game on the PS3, and it was developed by what was his name? Suda51. He was the same dude that made Lollipop Chainsaw.
I've heard of that game, and I always saw the
Lollipop Chainsaw is a fantastic game.
Really?
I love it.
Yeah, doesn't Tara Strong do the voice?
The best part was when I picked it up, I wasn't 17, so I had to be with my mom. So my mom had to see me buy this game, Lollipop Chainsaw, with this cheerleader on the cover.
Oh my god.
But I've only really gotten to play about an hour of Shadows of the Damned, and it's a Suda51 game. It's so cheesy and just so ridiculous and just excessive violence and excessive swearing, but it's like really funny. It's really good, and I want to play more because when the game first came out, probably 5 or 6 years ago now at this point.
Ooh.
When it first came out, like seeing the gameplay of it, it looked really, really fun, really interesting. But the whole idea of it, it's like basically a parody of like a Western slasher thriller type thing with just like the protagonist's name is something Hotspur. His last name is Hotspur. Garcia Hotspur, I think. And he always says, "Are you talking to me, puta?" It's just really cheesy. And he drives a motorcycle, and he has a leather jacket.
My name is Machete.
So I'm excited to play it. I'd like to get back to it. I haven't gotten to play any Fallout 4 DLC, even though Far Harbor came out over a month ago now, and they've started their next wave of the DLC. With the DLC coming out next month, you get to build your own vault, which is actually really interesting. You get to build your own vault and lay it out, and it says you get to do experiments on your dwellers.
Oh.
I would like to see how in-depth that is. Hopefully it's not just what happens when you don't feed them.
It'd be pretty cool.
What happens when you overwork them? Like, what I want to be able to say, like, what happens when you give one person an antidote that can either cure him entirely, or if he gives it out to 10 other people, you get partially cured. Does that person keep it? Or does he give it out to everyone?
Oh, that's
like,
dirty.
I want to see like that type of
That's
extensive,
dark.
like, because the lore of Fallout, there are some twisted vault experiments.
Yeah.
I mean, the one I always tell people when I'm explaining Fallout is Vault 68 and 69.
Geekly.
One of them had 1 man and 100 women, and one had 1 woman and 100 men. And they just watched what happened.
What I was about to say was, it would be interesting if they had some like cross-play between their app.
That's true. I don't think they'll do that, although they have totally revamped Fallout Shelter, because that game was released just to hold people over until Fallout 4 and to be at the top of the App Store, just like free advertisement. But it's doing so well. I mean, they've changed the combat system. You can now go out and explore instead of just sending your character out.
Oh.
I mean,
I didn't know they did all that.
They have redone the game, and I don't want to play it because I know I'll be addicted again.
Because I was addicted, but what frustrated me was the game was continuously going even when my phone was off.
Right.
And like I'd come back to it and they're like, "Bro, you look at people are dead. You didn't give them water." I was like, "Well, dude, I was taking a nap."
Fallout Shelter, when it first came out, it was another game where, and such is the result of a lot of mobile games, where once you get to a certain point, there's no threat, there's no challenge. It's, you're kind of done. There's nothing more you can do. So they've totally redone Fallout Shelter. Other than Shadows of the Damned, I've been doing a lot of like buying games, trying to find some games to resell. And don't worry, people, I don't resell at ridiculous prices. I'm reasonable. GameStop had a 50% extra trade-in credit deal going this week.
That was amazing.
And again, I know not to take your brand new PS4 game to GameStop. You can sell it on eBay for a lot more. But I had a lot of games that go for $3 or $4 on eBay, so it wasn't even worth listing them. So I got $100 in credit, which is awesome. Probably put that towards the October-November rush of games that we get every year.
My wallet isn't ready.
And other than that, I've been having this weird experience with... Have you ever listened to 21 Pilots?
No, but I heard they did a theme for Suicide Squad. Because my girlfriend keeps telling me that. I love you, sweetie. You don't talk like that, but yeah.
It's called Heathens. It's actually a pretty good song. But 21 Pilots, it's like the strangest thing for like a year now. Because all my friends are huge fans of theirs. And they call their fans the Skeleton Clique, which is a little cringy.
You said a little cringy. Pardon, I thought you said that's really creepy.
But my friend Parker and I we just have made fun of them for so long because 21 Pilots, they have like a kind of a poppy rock combo, and the lyrics are questionable at times in terms of how like a little too emotional, like a little too serious and cheesy. But recently I've been listening to them again and trying to give them another chance because they tour a lot, so it'd be cool to see. They have a fantastic live show. They're incredible live, which I give any artist credit. If your music can be garbage, but if you got a good live show, respect. I've been trying to give them another chance to see if like I just wrote them off and I really do like them, and the result is I just don't like them. They've got like 3 or 4 songs that are pretty decent. Yeah, but that one song you were talking about that they made for Suicide Squad is cool, Heathens. But yeah, I will not be joining the Skeleton Clique.
I hope you wouldn't.
That is not for me.
Yeah, I gotta listen to some more different music. Because I stopped listening to rap for the most part.
Really?
Besides a few artists, and like I've just been listening to I listened to a hell of a lot of Mumford & Sons, old Coldplay. I know. It's just, they're like, Dan, you listen to what? But yeah, I love Mumford & Sons.
You gotta listen to Denzel Curry.
Yeah.
Denzel Curry, he's on
Chris
the Double XL freshman list, which doesn't mean too much to me. But he's had 3 albums put out, and he's like that heavy, like, not trap, but like borderline ignorant, you know what I'm saying? You know,
just hardcore, yeah.
But also like lyrically, he tells some really cool stories.
Like he can get belligerent, but he's a really good storyteller.
Yeah, absolutely.
You put that more eloquently than ignorant.
Right.
But no, yeah.
But I think definitely give Denzel Curry a try. He's really awesome. I like him a lot.
Oh my goodness, my friend, he put me onto Vic Mensa.
I haven't listened to him.
So now he did this like radio hit that I heard a while back. And it's like, when I get down on my love, it's like this like club song. But he was like, I was like, oh yeah, it's the same dude who made that club song. And my friend was like, no, he made this. He put out this mixtape or whatever. And he's like, and it talks about like just like police brutality and shootings. And he talks about the boy who was shot 16 times, who's had the knife. And he made a song about that. And I was just like, what? This is the same guy who made that made that Pop Club song? So yeah, if you're looking for a song with a great political statement and something to make you, get the eye rolled at by the police, 16 Shots by Vic Mensa is really, really good. Yeah, I think that's about it.
All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and give you guys the collector's item of the week, and then we'll go ahead and wrap this up. So for this week, this is a game I'm really, really looking forward to, and I'm sure a lot of you are too. If anyone played Dishonored, you probably know it's an incredible game, really good combination of story and stealth or fast-paced action. It's totally up to you. The art style is unique. You recognize it in a heartbeat if you see it. But the Dishonored 2 Collector's Edition was announced at E3. It's for $100, which at first you're like, oh, $100. But then when you see what you get, and it's only $40 more than the regular game, it's a pretty good deal. So in the Collector's Edition, you're going to get Dishonored Definitive Edition. So that's the first game remastered with all the DLC. That's totally free.
Yes.
You're going to get some stupid like in-game add-on. I hate those so much. So pre-order this and get a car.
Mafia.
Right. You get a steelbook case, which I know some people aren't crazy about. I love them. I love steelbook cases. You get a replica of Emily Caldwin's ring, which Emily was the girl you were protecting in the first game. She's now a playable character and a badass assassin. You can play as her.
Supposed to be the queen now?
I believe so.
But she was like, nah.
Well,
I got better things to do.
That's the story. Why does she have to say nah, Daniel? We'll have to play.
That's a good point. I'd never beat Dishonored. I actually only played like the first 2-3 levels.
I platinum trophy Dishonored, so that means I played through it 4 times. I loved it. It was so don't get me started. Okay. So you get the steelbook case. You get a replica of Emily Caldwin's ring, which I'm assuming has a lot of weight to it in the game, a lot of meaning to it. You get a poster, which looks like it says Her Majesty Delilah Caldwin. So I'm assuming Delilah is gonna maybe be the reason why Emily had to say nah.
Nah.
And then it comes in a cool box with a plastic window that you can look into. Why would you need the plastic window? Well, folks, you need that plastic window because it comes with a replica of Corvo's mask. And if you know anything about Dishonored, you know Corvo's mask. It's on the cover of the case. It's that kind of the steel, like Terminator-looking
steampunk.
Yes, Dishonored definitely has a steampunk feel. But this, they haven't said if it's metal or plastic. It would be awesome if it's metal, but I'm assuming it'd be a little more expensive if it was.
Expensive, and yeah.
But this mask is 13.5 inches tall, 16 inches wide, and 5.5 inches deep. So that's a pretty life-size replica.
Giggity, Will. That sounds amazing.
I would love to wear that around campus and see how quickly I am brought down. But
how quickly you would be detained on campus.
Right.
You'd be in an armbar faster than UFC, man.
So that is your collector's item of the week, the Dishonored 2 Collector's Edition for $100. The big item out of that is Corvo Tano's mask replica, which this is a better deal for me because I'm such a diehard Dishonored fan. I mean, for you, Daniel, since you really don't know much about it, would you say this seems like a fair price from what you're hearing?
Fair price, yes, and because this would actually possibly something I'm considered getting because I want to play Dishonored 1, and I got to play a little bit of the remaster at my friend's place, and I was way more into it because the game just looked more crisp and the art really popped
60
on
frames
the
per second. Yep.
Really popped on the definitive edition. So
now I will say I am pretty sure that every copy of Dishonored 2 will come with that. So you could buy just a standard $60 and get Dishonored Definitive. Now I'm not positive on that. I'm pretty sure.
I will look into that. But yeah, because after watching that, I was really excited. And after watching the trailer, which you can watch my reaction to on the GeekSpeakNation, but after watching the video for it, I was really intrigued because the art style was so different and where they're moving the era into, where it's like you have this clash of like science fiction going on with steampunk vibe. So you have this like this futuristic aspect they're trying to move towards with the robots and all these things, but there's still that occult vibe going through it, and the clash between the higher, the higher citizens and those who.
Yeah, and I like that they're making the world is kind of open world, and there's these different factions of the world you're in. So they showed in the E3 gameplay, you have the kind of the fisherman's ward, and that's where these storms will hit at random times, and then you've got kind of the more respected, esteemed, royalty ward, stuff like that. And another really cool thing, probably the thing that stood out the most to me that I both didn't fully understand and also really look forward to trying for myself, is that portion of the gameplay where you have like glass on your arm, and you hold it up and you see into the past through the glass.
Ooh.
So you have to, like, you're in this dilapidated castle, but when you look through the glass, you see it in its former glory with all its guards and stuff. So you have to kill the guards, but you can only see them through the looking glass. So you have to, like, place yourself to where once you put the glass up, you're behind the guards so you can take them down. And once you put the glass down, the body is then in your realm. It's like you're going in between these two realms simultaneously, and like sometimes it enters into yours and you enter into its. It looked real. It was hard to follow watching it. I think I'll need to play it.
True.
But
Yeah, because with better context, it'll probably explain itself.
It looked really, really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, because the powers look really great, so I'm excited for that.
Definitely.
Well, Will, this wraps up the first ever episode of the Weekly Geekly? Geekly. Pardon me. The Weekly Geekly podcast. Will, is there anything you want to say to the folks before we sign off?
Yeah, initially we planned on this being like 30 minutes, but
we're talking to people.
But like we said, I mean, when we went into this, we said we'll shoot for 30 minutes, but if we talk and it's a valid conversation, then you know it's not worth limiting ourselves. So. Right. Hopefully you guys listen to the whole thing.
Yeah. So, yeah, guys, if you've made it to the end, we appreciate it. And your achievement has been unlocked, and you can collect your platinum trophy after we finish this series. But, guys, thank you so much for all the support you guys give to the channel. We really do appreciate it. And, guys, comment in that comment section. We really want to hear you guys' thoughts on all the news that's been going on. And if you have any tips throughout the week of some news stories that you really want covered, don't forget to leave it in the comment sections of videos throughout the week.
Let us know what you guys want us to talk about. If there is something that just broke and you want us to mention it, go ahead and leave it in the comments of this video, and we'll definitely try to get it in.
Because we'd love to have like a fan topic section or something like that.
Absolutely.
Something we can definitely incorporate. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much. I've been Daniel.
I've been Will.
And don't forget to get geeky.